Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cinesmack. This is bout number 3, and we actually have kind of a surprise this week. It's Moonstruck isn't going to make it into the ring. They've come down with a serious case of jaundice, and Nick Cage was hired to do Ghost Rider 3: Electric Boogaloo. Instead, in its place, is Blue Valentine. So it's going to be Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind versus Blue Valentine. So if you haven't seen Blue Valentine yet, kind of a spoiler alert, we will be talking about it. And like Marty McFly said, it's heavy, Doc. So let's get on with our Cinesmack tiers. First, I'll introduce Mr. Gabriel Rollwald.
Good evening, my fine filmy friends.
Mr. Tom Haggis.
General Boredom, reporting for duty.
Mr. Sam Twomey.
I can't be as funny as those, so hello, everybody.
And last but certainly least, Mark Johnson.
Greetings and salutations, listeners.
How are you guys doing tonight?
Good.
Good? Yeah?
Horrible.
Cold. So cold.
Tom, did you just go see Blue Valentine today? Because
Oh
that's
my
kind of
God.
the way I felt afterwards.
Yeah, I'm. It's going to be tough for me to do a podcast with a gun barrel in my mouth, but I'll try and get there.
So if we hear a loud bang, do we just keep going?
Yes, yeah. By all means, don't stop the podcast on my account.
All right, fair enough. Well, let's go ahead and get this party started, shall we? As soon as I find the right file. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, lovers and haters, welcome to bout number 3 of Cinesmack. Tonight is a battle between the forgotten and the fragmented. In the first corner, released in 2004, directed by Michael Gondry, starring Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. And in the second corner, released in 2010, directed by Derek Cianfrance, starring Ryan Gosling and Michelle Williams in Blue Valentine.
Well, there you go. I hope he said his last Cianfrance right. Does anyone know how to say that right?
I was more thinking about Michelle Gondry's name because I thought it was like Michelle Gondry instead of Michael. But
Oh, did he say Michael? Oh, is it
yes.
Well, sorry, Michelle. I didn't even. Thanks, Mark. I appreciate that. Well,
Not a problem.
our ring announcer came over and did this last night. It kind of, not really the last minute, but we were kind of pressed for time. I was late getting home from work, so I apologize. But yeah, should we go ahead and get on to the first round?
Let's do it.
Yep.
Let's go with writing, and we'll start with Mark.
Oh, geez. Thanks for the setup.
You're welcome.
Okay, so what was it? We got Kaufman's Oscar-winning script in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I mean, we're dealing with two really solid pieces of writing here.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them are non-linear, which I'm a big fan of. What makes Eternal Sunshine neat is that these scenes are these memories are being erased. They're not solely just a flashback. They're sort of being relived by Carrey's character and being erased at the same time. So it's very unconventional. And Blue Valentine's more just sort of your modern flashback or standard flashback kind of deal. I don't know. They're both strong pieces. Again, Kaufman's won the Oscar, and I think it's better than the writing team of Cianfrance, Delvigne, and one more, as is listed on IMDb. It's hard to pick these two apart. They're both very strong.
All right. Sam.
Well, Mark, made some good points. I think as far as writing goes, to me, these pieces both have similar aspects, but the mood of the pieces is quite different. I think during this discussion a lot of talk about how different these films are, and they each have their own strong points. But I think one strong point in the writing of Blue Valentine for me is the notion of the unhappy story, or maybe that story that pushes you into thinking a little more deeply than you would just at your standard, boy meets girl, boy gets girl back kind of story. And it's really an examination of a non-glamorized future. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, it's a very thinking, fun script, and I can see why it won the Oscar, because it takes a lot of chances. For at that time, what was a big movie star at the top of his career, to do this more cerebral type film. But I think, man, if it had to come down to it, I think the stronger script is probably Sunshine, for the reason that it encompasses more scope, whereas Blue Valentine is more a smaller study of characters, as you say, and Eternal Sunshine actually goes to the creation of the characters, of the soul, the memories, and has a lot of fun getting there. So I'd have to go for Sunshine on the writing.
All right. Tom?
I agree with a lot of what Sam said. The thing that struck me the most about, obviously, I went into Blue Valentine last night, and I knew that I was going to compare it to Eternal Sunshine, and I walked out of the theater with this feeling that while they're both kind of the deconstruction of a relationship, these two films could not be more different. I mean, and I think a lot of that came down to the mood. So what's really interesting is that in Blue Valentine, you kind of have this feeling that you hope that they might get together and make it work. And in Eternal Sunshine, you know that it's not. From the very beginning, you know that this is where it's headed. And the other thing that's kind of hard for me is knowing a lot about Blue Valentine and how it was shot and written and directed, that Ryan and Michelle were allowed a lot of freedom to improvise. And it's really hard for me to figure out which of these lines were attributed to the writers and which of them were attributed to the actors. And we'll come back to that, I think, when we talk about acting. But there's some really great lines in Blue Valentine, real simple throwaway lines, where they're eating the raisins off the table, and she leans in and she goes, "I don't want to clean up after 2 kids." And I thought it was a great line, because it kind of laid in any hopes that he has of having more children or gone by the wayside.
Right.
That being said, the total story structure of Eternal Sunshine is much better, and I absolutely love the whole way that the film is put together. So I would probably have to give it to Eternal Sunshine for being better as a whole.
All right. Gabe?
Yeah, I agree with everything that they've said. And I feel like Blue Valentine is a little bit more casual as far as the writing is concerned. It's which I think lends itself well to a movie that's portrayed in such a realistic fashion. It's not this movie definitely feels very kind of visceral, real, everyday kind of stuff that you're watching, and the writing doesn't, in my opinion, doesn't really stand out as on a whole. But I think that's maybe what was intended. And like with what Tom said, it may be the result of some of the improvisation that was happening as well. So I don't, But maybe the fact that it seems so real is really actually a compliment to the writing. That the writing is so good that it doesn't seem like it was written. It just seems like it was lived, kind of. So it's hard to say with Blue Valentine, how much of it is actually writing and how much of it is acting and directing and editing and all those kinds of things. But with Eternal Sunshine, I think the writing is just stellar. And you have to think that with somebody like Jim Carrey in the main role, that there's going to be a lot of improvisation there as well. Although maybe he reined himself in a little bit and just kind of went with the material, because I have a feeling that the material from the beginning was just really excellent. I really enjoyed the writing in Eternal Sunshine. It was more obvious that it was written, but it was very enjoyable to notice it. And I have to say that I don't think the simple line of "okay" could be any more satisfying than in that movie. The very last line where they're like basically saying, "We know how this is going to turn out. We know this is going to fall apart. You're not going to like me anymore. I'm going to annoy you, and you're going to bore me." And he says, "Okay." It's so simple. Mm-hmm. That it's perfect, in my opinion. So I feel like the writing on both was very strong, but I really enjoyed the writing better on Eternal Sunshine.
All right. Well, I kind of have to agree with the fact that for the first time, I saw both these movies for the first time. Eternal Sunshine really blew me away as far as the writing is concerned. I agree. Like you're kind of like, oh, this is probably going to, You kind of knew where it was somewhat going, where Blue Valentine, it also kind of had the opposite effect, where you were wishing that they hadn't written it that way. That eventually, they would maybe reconcile in the end, but all in all, they didn't. So, yeah, it's a good one. Let's move on to our second round, acting. Oh, hey, easy. Easy.
Low high speed.
Easy. Slow it down, Turbo. Let's go ahead. We'll start with Mr. Haggis.
Hello.
Hi, Tom.
Hey, how's it going? I've put the gun away.
All right.
He took the barrel out of his mouth. He's still with us.
The acting is something that kind of it's really hard for me to say this because in full disclosure, Eternal Sunshine is my favorite movie of all time. I love watching it, and every time I watch it, and I've probably seen it 12 or 15 times. Mm-hmm. Every time I watch it, I am completely blown away at how well the story is put together and how Charlie Kaufman's probably specifically was able to capture this essence of relationships, that we keep going after relationships even though we know that there's a really good chance it's not going to work out, because every relationship fails until we find the one that doesn't. Mm-hmm. And even if it's with the same person, which some of us have done, broken up with somebody and then got back together with them again for the good stuff. That being said, the acting in Blue Valentine was really, really good. And I am not a connoisseur of Ryan Gosling films, but this was one of those occasions where I'm going to seek out his stuff. And from what I understand, Lars and the Real Girl is very good, and Half Nelson, is that it? The other one where he's a teacher, I think. It's supposed to be very good.
Right.
So I just, it's tough for me to say this, but I'd have to say the acting in Blue Valentine was better. But Eternal Sunshine is still my favorite movie of all time.
Fair enough. Sam.
Well, let me start by saying that I love Ryan Gosling. He's been an actor that I've been following the last several years, and I've always been blown away by his stuff. Tom, definitely seek out The Believer and The Slaughter Rule as well. Believer is incredible early performance from him.
He was in The Slaughter Rule?
I think
was
so.
Was he the quarterback in that?
I'm not on the page, but I think so.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, I love that movie. I had forgotten he's in that. Thank you very much.
Yes. Well, and the thing is, both of these films, as Thomas said, are very, very strong and for different reasons. Watching Blue Valentine, you know, admiring it for what it was very simply a story that was very much hinged on those characters. Most of the other supporting cast were fairly new faces, and it was obvious that the focus was mainly on Dean and Cindy. But in Eternal Sunshine with Jim Carrey, that a change for him in that career where we first kind of saw a different quality, a deepness to him. And Kate Winslet, oh my God, I love Kate Winslet. I just admire her performances. I love watching the energy they have on screen. And for Blue Valentine, the enjoyment was not necessarily from their excitement; it was almost from their pain. So it was tougher to, root for those characters, but at the same time recognizing how genuine those performances were and how powerful. And Michelle Williams, I think, is one of the only acting nominations from that film. I'm sure Ryan Gosling will continue to do his great work and get his someday, but a very great moment, snapshot in time and acting theory and how they deliver their performances. Like there's some powerful work there. But as far as acting goes, the one thing that's going to sway me for Eternal Sunshine is the supporting cast and the fact that not only are there tremendous performances by the leads, outstanding performances, but we get some really good bits from the supporting characters. Mark Ruffalo is hilarious. He just adds another layer of smiles for me. Elijah Wood is creepy, and
yes, he is.
But there's just some fun stuff. The only thing I didn't like, Kristen Dunst. I never really cared for her shtick, but overall, I'm going to say Sunshine. Very close one for the acting, and I love the acting in Blue Valentine. But for me, it goes to Sunshine.
Right on, Gabe.
Yeah, the acting in both of these movies is just absolutely stellar, and because through this whole just terrible deterioration of their relationship, Ryan Gosling and Michelle Williams, are just so completely convincing, and I like that they don't have to say things to communicate them. You can just tell what they're thinking and feeling just from their body language and their facial expressions. And the things that they say are only the surface of what they're portraying in those scenes. I really thought they were stellar. Although it was just so hard to watch. But I think that's a testament to the power of the film and their acting, is how difficult it was to actually sit there and watch it. It was difficult because it was painful, private, personal things that you were seeing happen. And it was also painful because, I think many people can identify with those things. They've had similar things happen in their lives. And it just was, it just went right to the core, and you just identified with it. So I think their acting was really stellar. It's hard to say that it was enjoyable, but it was really actually very, very impressive. Now, Eternal Sunshine, again, great performances. I'm kind of a fan of Jim Carrey, and I'm a fan of his his slapstick, very physical comedic style. But I think a lot of great comedians are also very good dramatic actors. Probably some of the best comedians actually probably have a good dramatic background as well. And I think he's great. There are very few moments where in Eternal Sunshine where I feel like, oh, that's Jim Carrey doing his shtick. There's a couple. The part where she says, well, why don't you just hold your eyes open or whatever. And he's like, why don't you just wake up? And he holds his eyes open kind of in a goofy manner and that kind of thing. But it kind of worked at that point. And I didn't mind that there was a little bit of the kind of Jim Carrey shtick coming out. And I thought that the acting in that was very stellar. And I think, and maybe it was because of the subject matter, because of the material, I think the chemistry was better between Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet. I just felt more convinced that they were actually that into each other, that they really cared about each other that much. And so, I think that's a testament to their acting as well, that they really had chemistry together. But, like I said, maybe in Blue Valentine, chemistry wasn't the thing. They were never intended to have chemistry.
Right.
So,
It was
I don't
supposed to
know
be
if that's
opposites.
right. I don't know if that was a knock on their styles or not, but yeah, both were very strong. I guess if I had to choose, I don't know. I think I would go with Eternal Sunshine because of that chemistry.
All right. Mr. Johnson.
Oh boy. No, I guess I first have to say that I think the best performance in either of these movies is Michelle Williams. She gives a very, I don't know how to say it, like a very nuanced performance. It's not over the top. It's not, she's not playing down or playing depressed or anything. It's just, I'm not much to critique acting, but I feel like she hit every note perfectly in this thing. And Ryan Gosling, on the other hand, I felt was maybe just a little bit over the top. Like it was like Ryan Gosling on 11. Like maybe he needed to be scaled back like just a little bit.
This is how they laugh in the future, Mark.
that was funny though.
Yeah.
I mean that scene in the future room, I was thinking he's eaten so much scenery that the scenery is actually gone and it's just Ryan Gosling against like this black palette basically. Mm-hmm. And he was eating so much scenery, that's why it was evaporating in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. It was just disappearing. No. But and where I think Ryan Gosling should have been scaled back just a little bit. I think Jim Carrey in Eternal Sunshine I felt was almost too reserved. And maybe that's because I'm used to him playing Ace Ventura or the Cable Guy or whatever, and I'm used to his over-the-top performances, but he almost seemed bored. I mean, he was solid, don't get me wrong, but I guess I compare his acting to his other works, and it was just so kind of outside the norm for him that it kind of was distracting for me. And Kate Winslet, I love Kate Winslet, and she really nails the whole manic pixie dream girl thing in Eternal Sunshine. But I well, no, seriously, the manic pixie dream girl, the girl who's free willing, and she always inspires the life of the guy who's down on his luck, and it's been it's like Garden State or Annie Hall or whatever. But
right.
I mean, Eternal Sunshine has a great cast, and I mean, they go 7 or 8 deep. I mean, has anyone ever walked out of a movie and said, Tom Wilkinson, how's that guy find work anymore? I mean, he's really good in this. David Cross is solid in his few moments, and you got Elijah Wood and Mark Ruffalo and the guys you guys had already talked about. But the two performances in Blue Valentine are so strong. I have to give it to Blue Valentine.
All right. Well, I just want to add, I really, really liked Ryan Gosling's performance. Minus the child, I saw a lot of myself in him during some of my darker times dealing with a bad relationship like that. So, it kind of hit home for me because I was able to compare myself to him and be like, okay, I saw a lot of what I had gone through in him, so that kind of made me gravitate more towards him. But I agree, the main problem that I had with watching Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind when it first came out, and ever since, before this podcast, was I'm like, oh, I like Jim Carrey being funny, and I want more Jim Carrey being funny, and after sitting down and watching this, just blew me away. I agree at certain points he did kind of look bored, but I think I'm in the same boat as Mark is, where I'm used to seeing him yell "Bumblebee tuna" and tell natives that their balls are showing. So, all in all, yeah, Eternal Sunshine really blew me away. But I don't get a vote, so I'm just flapping my jaws. Let's move on to the third round, which is...
Hey Mike.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, if we can, maybe we can take a moment to actually talk about the characters in the movies as well,
sure.
as opposed to just simply the acting, the portrayal of those characters.
Sure.
But talk about the characters, if that's okay with you guys. We don't necessarily have to vote on this, but I thought in both movies the characters were very interesting and very complicated and very nuanced, and I thought maybe we could spend a moment and talk about it.
All right. And just before you guys move on, I want to state that before Jim Carrey expressed interest in playing Joel, Nick Cage was considered for the role.
It would not have been the same. Yeah, that would not have.
In that parallel universe, I'm switching all of my votes to Blue Valentine.
I'm with you.
And you're putting the gun back in your mouth.
Right. If Nick Cage is listening, I apologize for that. But you're so good in so many other things, but I just can't. I can't picture you in that.
Yeah, no, I agree. So go ahead, Gabe.
Well, I don't know. I just thought the characters were very interesting, and I had in Blue Valentine, I had very strong feelings about the characters, which again I think is a testament to the writing and the acting that to make you feel so strongly. For instance, I felt like Michelle Williams' character was really kind of unsympathetic. I really didn't. In the end, I didn't really care much for her.
Right.
And I find that kind of strange because aren't you supposed to, in most movies, that's the character you would kind of feel something for. Right. She's kind of been taken advantage of. She's kind of had a little bit of a hard life. But I really found her kind of, unsympathetic. I just really didn't care for her much. And but Ryan Gosling's character, on the other hand, I just felt a heartbreak for. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I also kind of felt like slapping him a little bit because she was so obviously taking advantage of him through so much of the movie, taking advantage of his availability, of him being there. That I wanted to slap him and say, what the hell? Wake up, man. What are you doing? What are you thinking? You're giving too much of yourself, and she's taking every bit of it.
Right.
But I did feel him for him, like you said, Mike. I identified with those moments where you were in a difficult relationship and you were trying your hardest, so you were doing what you thought was right, and it just didn't matter.
Yep.
It just wasn't working.
Yep. Yeah, it was almost like she had her mind made up through, that entire time that this just wasn't going to work. That she was done, and she was just trying to find a way to tell him that it was done. Like her mind was made up. There was no room to talk about it whatsoever.
Or maybe she was just. It was almost like she was just waiting for him to give up, for her to be so distant and so emotionless in the relationship that he would just give up and get out. He would be fed up, but that just fed him even more. He just felt like he had to do more to win back that affection, which I don't think was ever really there. I never felt like there was any chemistry between those two, either whether it be the acting or the characters. She just never really seemed that into him. Mm-hmm. But he was there. He was available. He was ready to help raise another man's child so that she didn't have to do it alone, and give up like his life for her. And so she just kind of took advantage of it.
The one scene that I really I thought was pretty telling for the entire movie was when they're sitting in the hotel room, and she goes into the starts asking him about what happened to the music, what happened to all of these great things that you were always going to do.
Yeah.
And he says, I realize that what I want to be is a dad and a good husband and a good father. And he goes, I don't need that other stuff. I just want to be that. And I think that that was kind of almost the final straw for her, where she almost realized that the music's not coming back. He can put on the same CD that he always put on, but he's not going to sit there and play his ukulele like he used to, because he's moved on to something else. And she fell in love with the music and that part of him, and it wasn't there anymore.
Right.
And so that whole scene, I just sunk into my chair, and I just I saw the edge of the cliff and how fast the car was going, and
right. Well, I actually read kind of a review of Blue Valentine in the context of alpha male versus beta male, which is kind of an interesting,
it's a different take.
And it's really kind of interesting because it talks about how women are attracted to alpha males, men who are they're doing things, they have ambition, they have power, they have status, and those kinds of things, and that they often end up kind of hooking up with beta males because they're providers, and that they provide everything that they need for everyday living, but don't necessarily provide the spark for a relationship. They don't provide the kind of attraction that women are interested in. And in the context of this review, they talk about how you feel like she's at least sexually attracted to, if not in love with, a true total alpha male, the wrestler meathead guy that impregnates her and just beats up Ryan Gosling's character, and but you feel even after she sees him many years later in that liquor store and has a brief encounter with him, he's still totally alpha. He's still totally arrogant and totally into himself, and he's bold enough to ask a question, have you cheated on him?
Right.
Basically, have you cheated on your husband? And you get the feeling like she's simultaneously offended and kind of aroused by that question. Like, I can't believe you said that, but I'm still attracted to you in some way.
Right. I mean, I thought she was attracted, instantly. When she looked over, it was like, oh, it's him. And she, that she kind of still held the flame for him.
Right. And I don't mean to be lowbrow or graphic or anything, but I wondered if the fact that you'll have to go with me here. I wondered if the fact that her nipples were hard in that scene if that was intentional or not.
That was a good acting choice by her.
That could have been a directing choice. I may have to give it to the director for that. But really, I mean, honestly, that sounds really lowbrow, but I wondered if it was actually intentional. Because of the chemistry that was supposed to be portrayed between her. And then, Ryan Gosling's character, Dean, he actually starts out, they talk about him starting out as kind of an alpha character. He's pretty confident in himself. He's persistent, and he approaches her in a very alpha way. But he very quickly belies his true beta nature, where he's constantly giving, he's nurturing, he's just giving up all his emotion to her, and you just feel like she's never really truly attracted to him. And in part, according to this article, it's because he's beta. So I thought that was kind of an interesting take on it. And to tell you the truth, there's little hints of that in Eternal Sunshine as well, where although Jim Carrey's character is never really very alpha, but he's alpha in the sense that he's emotionally unavailable, that he's mysterious. He always says that he's boring, and doesn't have a lot to talk about. But that makes him kind of mysterious and unavailable. But then later on, he becomes very beta. He's totally into her. He would do anything to get back with her. He doesn't understand what happened, and he becomes boring to her. She is no longer attracted to him, and so that's kind of an interesting. I personally find it kind of an interesting theme in these kinds of movies, where the relationships are involved.
I agree, but wouldn't Elijah would he be considered a Delta male? Because he was creepy. Like that's the second creepiest thing I've ever seen him in. The first one is Sin City.
It's creepy in that, yeah, for sure.
That, I mean, but yeah, I totally see where Jim Carrey was never an alpha male. Like,
right.
He was always going to be a beta male no matter what. So, does anyone else have a take on that?
I have this habit when I watch a movie that is really well written. I like to kind of research the characters' names. And I know it's kind of stupid, but I want to know, did the writer just pull these names out of thin air, or did he do a little bit of research? And I found out that Clementine's last name, Krasinski, which is actually very similar to my sister's married name, is Krasinski. So that's what kind of drew me to it. But it comes from a Polish town called Kruzyn in Poland, and that is a derivative of the word to fragment or crumble.
Wow.
And I was just like, I can't believe that, that can't be a coincidence.
Right.
So
No, it doesn't seem like it.
So, and I just thought that was pretty neat. And I like the way that they used the word, the Clementine song from Huckleberry Hound in there too. And so anyway, that's something I found out.
Right on. Shall we move on to our directing? Or round 3?
Sure.
Oh, geez. He's going quick tonight. Man, give a monkey a Mountain Dew can and he just wants to pull on the string constantly. Better than throwing poo, I guess. If no one knew, I have a monkey here with one of those bells. He just pulls on it.
How do you trigger him to pull on it?
I just give him the high sign.
Okay.
I just give... And he just starts yanking on the string. All right. Well, let's start with directing, and we'll go with Mr. Twomey.
Well, again, two totally different films, and the directors really had to encompass different modes of getting this material onto film. And I know that Blue Valentine was a project that was around for a long time, and both Michelle Williams and Ryan Gosling were attached fairly early. So it's something that, a vision that was bubbling and brewing for quite some time. The director, the choices that they had in those films, obviously Blue Valentine, was a darker story, so he had to use a totally different palette than in Sunshine, which was... Sunshine was bright and lots of very unique imagery that helped move the story along, whereas in Blue Valentine, it was very cinema verite style, that not quite documentary, but lower lighting to go with the darker mood, the bluer palettes. It's very hard to pick a winner for me in choice of the directing styles, because they're both so different.
Right.
But I think I would really have to. I'm sorry. I'm just looking at one quick note. I think both artists, directors, were involved and got writing credits or story credits on both of these films. So they were both of them very much involved. I think for directing, I'd probably have to go slightly with Sunshine. Again, for the makeup, overall makeup of it, there's so many more parts. It's not as intimate of a story. So you have as much time with all the additional elements, and also a very fragmented script. So I'm imagining lots of setups, and they obviously had a lot more money for the Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. But I think in some ways it should also speak very well for Blue Valentine, in that they made such a powerful movie on a small budget that Hollywood didn't necessarily want them to make, or even tried to stop them from showing in some forms because of the content. So it's pretty damn close to a tie, because it took a lot of class, I think, to pull off Blue Valentine. You're dealing with a lot of very difficult subject matter, and there's no whimsy or comedy to hide behind or to put the audience at ease. So, big commendations to both of those directors, two very incredible projects.
Right on. Mark?
Yeah, I was just looking at the budgets for both films, and it, according to IMDb, estimated Blue Valentine was $1 million, and you got to think like $500,000 of that was probably spent on ukuleles alone, probably. you got to get just the right one. But seriously, I think you have to almost be a special brand of crazy to try to tackle a Charles Kaufman screenplay, and I think Michel Gondry kind of pulls it off with flying colors. I mean, just from a standpoint of adapting his script, which again, literally is really just is all over the place. It's in Jim Carrey's mind.
Mm-hmm.
We see sort of the last moment of the film at the very beginning of the story. Mm-hmm. It really is all over the place, and he has to keep all that straight and present it in a way that makes sense to the audience. And he really does a bang up job with it. Now with Blue Valentine, I feel like I can't even say his name. Derek, is it Jean-France?
Well, your guess. I can't even say Michel Gondry, right? So, well, I can't even write it correctly. So, in France is how I told Ron to announce it. So,
okay. Well, I mean, he's sort of. I mean, his screenplay is a little more, quote unquote standard, I guess. But, I mean, he still has to direct these two great performances in Gosling and Williams, and it's sort of like a passive aggressive, Godzilla versus Mothra almost. I mean, I mean, metaphorically speaking, they're throwing each other into buildings and into walls, and they're crashing through things. And
that's really good, Mark. I never thought of it like that. Right on.
And I think it takes. I mean, it takes a certain talent to sort of get that just right. So, I mean, both of their pieces can be admired on different levels, and it's really hard to choose. But I think if I had to pick one, I'm going to go with Michel Gondry.
Okay. Is someone getting murdered at someone's house?
Yeah, Lucas hasn't quite gotten to bed yet. Is
okay. I'm just wondering if if you've opened up the torture cell tonight, Mark.
No, he just it's past his bedtime. He's not getting to sleep. If you need to mute me or something, you can.
Oh no, you're fine.
Okay.
I would just want to let everyone know that Helga's House of Pain is in full swing at Mark Johnson's house.
But no one's being murdered.
That's right. All right, Tom.
I'm going to do what I kind of usually do is I'm going to compliment one movie and then pick the other one. So Blue Valentine was very well directed, and there were some really great choices in the whole thing. I had read that for the courtship scenes they used a 16 millimeter camera, and then for the married scenes later on in the movie they shot it all on red, which is a high end digital camera.
Right. Mm-hmm.
They did a great job matching the two up, and I thought that was a really interesting choice. And there's some really beautiful shots. The final scene on the sidewalk, the final scene on the sidewalk was it really, really like tore me up. I was trying to describe it to my wife last night, and I could barely get through it because I have a 2-year-old daughter, and it completely just tore me up. Even though there wasn't that blood relation between the two of them.
Right.
The hotel room was another scene where I don't know if any of you have ever tried this, but to get a claustrophobic feel on a big wide screen like that is really, really hard to do. And that hotel room, they they literally felt like they were on top of each other. So, and that was all really, really well done. And I thought it was obviously there's some directing the actors that through some of the improvisational scenes that if you look up, there's some really good stories about certain scenes in the movie. I look them up after you've seen it though, because it kind of ruined a couple scenes for me. That being said, Eternal Sunshine, it would have been so easy for Eternal Sunshine to just completely fall apart. Were so many different ways that movie could have gotten messed up and become so confusing, and it's balancing so many different ideas that you can clearly see that Gondry had this vision.
Wow, Mark, you're starting to echo.
Really?
Yeah, never mind. You're good now.
Okay.
That he had this real clear vision that he wanted to use before they even started shooting, and some of that may be the editing, that they were able to put the pieces in the right order. But I would have to give it to Eternal Sunshine for just having a very complex picture so clearly laid out that it was really hard to get lost in that movie.
All right. Gabe?
Yeah, I have to agree a lot with Tom. I think the directing in both was really clearly excellent. And with Blue Valentine, some of the choices that they made outside of the story and the acting that impacted the feel of the movie, I think were really well made choices. I wondered when I watched it, I was like, wow, this is like a movie I would have made in film school, because it looked like that. And I said, I wonder if they shot that on 16 millimeter, because it looks like 16 millimeter. It's very kind of low fidelity, very grainy, kind of muted colors. And I'm like, well, it's the perfect choice for this. Even with the availability of probably less expensive digital equipment to film something like this, it's the perfect choice for this material, because it is as raw and gritty as the emotional content that's being portrayed. And I also thought the choice to do it kind of a very handheld style, very kind of unpretty. Uh-huh. The movie is very unpretty, but I think it's by choice, and that's what I admire about it, is that they decided to make it gritty and raw, and I think it worked really well. And obviously, the actors had a lot of leeway. They did a lot of improvisation, but clearly they also had some direction as to, how these characters are to be portrayed. And so I think overall the directing for Blue Valentine was very good. But I'm going to do exactly what Tom did, is compliment this movie very highly, but pick the other, because Eternal Sunshine is really just. I hadn't seen it for a long time, and I just watched it again recently for this, and I forgot how much I enjoyed it the first time. And it really is. It's a non-linear approach that could really just get totally confusing. And at times it is kind of confusing, but that's kind of the joy of it. You're like, oh, when did that happen? Oh, I see. Now, this is coming together, and it all kind of comes together at the end. And it really was a delicate balancing act. And while the filmmaking is more beautiful in many respects, it's also very kind of raw in its own ways. Some of the memories the scenes where they're actually in the memories and they're trying to run away and get away from it being erased and preserve those memories. It's like they just had one big spotlight on the actors and they were just following them around, which is kind of the epitome of simplicity. But it also worked for that because they're really under the spotlight. It's a searchlight searching out these memories to destroy them, and I thought it was a really great choice for that. Mm-hmm. And then just some of the subtleties in it, the differences. Like God, just keeping her hair color straight would be kind of a juggling act. It's like what color should her hair be in this scene? I don't know. We gotta keep track of that. And so it's a really finely tuned, really well done job of directing in that. It's clearly the directing that got them through that and made that movie as enjoyable as it is.
All right. Well, man, I have to say that I guess for me, Blue Valentine would almost be harder to direct, just as a filmmaker. As I stand as a filmmaker, it would be a lot harder for me to direct, I think. Especially considering, you're not really going to stick with the script. You're going to just go ahead and let your actors kind of choose how they want to go with some of the lines and how they want the scenes to go. And you kind of have to work with them on that, of course. But I agree with Tom, man. That motel room felt like you were in a coffin. It literally felt like these two people were stuck in, maybe not a coffin, how about a closet together, for an exorbitant amount of time, happening to deal with each other, what seemed they were dealing with each other for the first time in a long time because they've always had that buffer there, which is their daughter. But I was reading on here, and I'm going to say, first of all, this is a spoiler alert. So if you haven't seen this movie yet and you want to see it, maybe you shouldn't listen to this part. Maybe fast forward a couple seconds. But it says here that when Cindy tells Dean that he has potential in life because of his artistic talents, the argument about potentiality was based on a talk between Derek Cianfrance and his wife about getting the film made for many years. And, I've kind of had that same discussion a couple of times as well. But, yeah, I agreed both directing styles, but for me, definitely Blue Valentine would have to be the hardest to direct. Let's move on to our last category, which is overall film. There, see? I stopped him. I took it away from him. Here, go crazy, Bonzo. Oh, he's happy now. He's grinning ear to ear. Okay, that's enough.
Bonzo.
All right, so overall film, overall take on both films. Let's go ahead and decide which one you want to pick. Overall, we'll start with, let's go to Tom.
I'm going to just straight up and say Eternal Sunshine is better. It's pretty much like last month. Which one am I going to watch again? And I really don't feel like reliving Blue Valentine, to be honest with you. I dread the day when my wife brings it home and it's like, hey, let's watch this. And I was like, all right, sure. We'll bring out the magnifying glass. Why not? But I'm going to just go ahead and we'll address kind of the elephant in the room. Blue Valentine's NC-17 rating. I just want to touch on it real briefly. Completely baffled about why it got an NC-17 rating. I've never been able to understand why two married people having sex is less appropriate than two married people cutting each other in half with machine guns. I'll never understand that. And I'm really happy that they were able to, get a R rating out of them. Mm-hmm. I had read that the director took it as a compliment, the NC-17, because he goes, we didn't show anything, so the only thing that this tells me is that these love scenes were too real. I'd have to agree with that, because I didn't really find anything particularly arousing about the scenes. I was just like, there's two married people, doing what two married people do. So,
I closed my eyes. I was.
So, yeah, and I don't really care to watch that again. So I'm going to just give it to Eternal Sunshine because I know that's one I'm going to go back to over and over and over again.
All right, Gabe.
Yeah. Overall, they were both good movies, and but if you remember, Mike, when we were leaving, we were talking to John, the manager of the Fleur Cinema there, and he said he overheard a woman, an older woman, talking,
right.
and she said, "This is the worst movie I've seen in my 88 years of life." And I thought, wow, that's pretty harsh. But on another level, that's actually a real compliment to Blue Valentine. Because I don't know, but my suspicion is what she was really referring to is the intensity of the emotions that movie stirred in people. That movie was so difficult to watch that you can't really love it. But you have to admire it on a certain level for that. But I'm totally 100% with Tom. I don't think I will ever watch it again unless I'm forced to, because it's so uncomfortable, it's so painful, it's so real that I just don't think I can sit through it again. I really enjoyed Eternal Sunshine the second time around. I hadn't seen it for a long time. I didn't remember very much about it. I remembered the general concept, but I really enjoyed it. And it is a movie I would watch again. And I think it has to do with the tone. The one Blue Valentine, it's just a downer. It just brings you down. It makes you never want to be in a relationship with anyone ever again.
Right.
No, Mom, don't call me because I don't even want to talk to you after seeing this movie. It just really brings you down. Whereas there's at least a glimmer of kind of hope at the end of Eternal Sunshine. You get to the end and you see how they became, and it's sad, and but you feel like, well, maybe if they gave it another shot, they could conquer it.
Right.
And so I hate to be that kind of guy that falls for that only likes a movie because it has a happy ending, or it's kind of escapist and it makes me feel better about my life. And I hate to be that guy on a certain level, but I have to say I don't want to revisit Blue Valentine in those feelings very often.
Okay.
So yeah, Eternal Sunshine is my pick overall.
All right, Mark.
I go with True Grit 69. That's what I'm.
Nice. Happy ending. Perfect.
John Wayne rides off into the sunset.
Right. He never dies.
Maddie has her arm.
I really got to take the opposite stance here. I watched Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, I believe 5 or 6 years ago, and it first came out on DVD right before it won the screenplay Oscar. Mm-hmm. And I was really impressed with it at that time. It blew me away. I really had fond memories of it for the last 5 years. And when I went to revisit it for the podcast, that passion had sort of fizzled. Knowing, what we were watching at the beginning actually, takes place at the end of the story, and knowing, why he didn't remember the Clementine song and things like that. Once I knew all the little gimmicks, it took the rewatchability out of it for me. And I think the performances in Blue Valentine are so strong, I could see myself going back and rewatching Blue Valentine again instead of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. As bleak, as bleak and as dark as it is, I mean, man, Michelle Williams, on her A game is like, I could watch her read I could watch her read the phone book, basically. So I would watch Blue Valentine again over Eternal Sunshine, and that is my pick for overall.
All right. Sam.
Well, I'll keep it fairly short. I think everything's pretty much been said in this case. I think they're both tremendous films. I'm so glad we got a chance to incorporate Blue Valentine into this podcast because I think it's one of those important films that you might not rewatch it a lot of times, but if you like cinema and like watching quality acting and storylines that take you to a different place, then Blue Valentine's definitely the watch for you. As far as the overall kind of viewership or people that will be able to kind of really enjoy the film, I'd have to go with Eternal Sunshine overall. And I think the people that do get a chance or seek out Blue Valentine will get an amazing return on their investment of their movie ticket because it is an incredible piece, and so is Eternal Sunshine. But overall, I'd go with The Sun.
All right. Now, with that said, I want to ask you guys, in any of the parts, directing, acting, would you have picked someone different? Would you want a different director for either movie? Would you want different actors for the different parts? Or do you think that they did so well in each of their parts that it would really be a totally different film without one or the other? Well,
I don't think it would work in just the structure of the way Hollywood does things. But I would have liked to have seen Mark Ruffalo's character and Jim Carrey's character switch places.
Really?
I would have rather seen Ruffalo in the lead and Jim Carrey as sort of the weird, not weird, but sort of the goofy. I don't know if you call him a scientist or technician, whatever he was.
Yeah.
But that would never happen in the way movies are made. You got to lead with Jim Carrey because that'll get people in seats. So.
I think I would have liked to see Steve Soderbergh try his hand at Blue Valentine. I like his work, and I think this would be something that he'd be very, very good at. He's done stories like this, before, Sex, Lies, and Videotape, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's the director that came to mind when I was watching it. So,
all right, Gabe, Sam.
Well, what would Tyler Perry do with Blue Valentine? I don't know if we have enough time to talk about it, so that's all I'll say on that.
Guaranteed Michelle Williams would have gone to jail.
And Medea shows up in the future room. Talk about okay.
I can't believe you made a tasteless scene that more tasteless. Well done.
Oh man. Yeah, I don't think I can follow that at all. Actually, I try to picture, well, we mentioned, Nicolas Cage possibly in the role that Jim Carrey had played, and I can't even picture that. I just, and I'm having a hard time picturing any better choices for any of these characters at this point. But I don't think I would change very much about either one of them. I think they're pretty good, both the way they are.
All right. Well, let's head down to the ring then. Hit it, Bonzo.
Ladies and gentlemen, your winner by decision for bout number 3 is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Wow. Yeah, there you go.
Booing.
Yeah, there's people booing.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good mix. It's more mixed with the cheering and booing this week, I feel like. Last time they were booing the hell out of
Well, I try to, change out the audience every week. They're just in the room next to us.
Oh, of course.
Well, next to me, not next to you guys, but yeah. So I want to say sorry to Michel Gondry for not saying his name properly, and I don't know if I called he or she when Mark called me out on the name being wrong. So yeah, that's what you get from being from France.
I'm sorry, but you're French.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So I take back my apology.
I'm sorry, but it's your fault.
let's go ahead and we have a special segment this week, and we'll get to it here. And it is our Oscar picks, brought to you by OscarRadar.com. And which one of you is going to want to go first on your picks? We're going to pick the top four. We're going to pick Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Actress, and Best Directing. So which one wants to go first? Not all of you at once.
Well, here I'm tallying this, so I'm getting all my information in front of me. So whoever wants to start first can go for it.
I'll go. How about that?
Oh shoot! Oh, okay, gotcha. I wasn't planning on you doing it, but okay, let's go.
Yeah. Well, I'm throwing my hat in the ring. Goddamn. I'm gonna go with Best Actor. I'm gonna pick Jeff Daniels. Just in my opinion, I believe Jeff Daniels deserves it because I really haven't seen any of the others. But if
are you talking about? You mean Jeff Bridges?
Jeff Bridges. Jesus, thank you. Does
like,
anyone else
Daniels
smell toast?
Oh, I even typed Jeff Daniels. I need to fix that.
I'm picking Jeff Daniels from Dumb and Dumber. I think he's going to win Best Actor. What is wrong with me tonight? Best Actress, I'm going with every fanboy's love of his life, and that's Natalie Portman. I've heard nothing but good things about her in Black Swan. I kind of have ignored all the bad things. Best Directing, I'm going to go with David Fincher. I have to agree. We were talking earlier. There has been a lot of hype around Social Network. I don't think it's going to win Best Picture, but I really believe that maybe for the hype, David Fincher is going to get an Oscar for his troubles. And for Best Picture, I'm going to pick King's Speech. There's another one that has a whole lot of hype around it, and well, quite frankly, I kind of have to go with my gut feeling on it. So there you go. Those are mine. Sam. Oh my God, they killed Sam.
He's dead. He's dead.
Sam's dead. Sam's over there.
You heard it here first, folks. All right, let's see. For directing, controversy nominations aside, I would probably have to go with True Grit. Actually, I think I would. As we discussed in the last podcast, lots of good stuff there. Actress, I would love to see Michelle Williams win. Have not seen Black Swan. It's on my list, so sorry. Actor, have to go with Jeff Bridges. Like a lot of the other performance, Colin Firth is a strong favorite. I think King's Speech is. It's going to get a lot of awards, and it's an incredible film. It probably will end up getting Best Picture. Weird choice. What if Toy Story 3 won?
Oh, that'd be awesome.
There's some fun stuff there. I think it's funny that with the expanded nomination that it's on there, but there's some fun work there. I hope Social Network doesn't get it. I don't think it was the best film. I don't know. It was a good film, but I don't know why critics are so gaga over the Social Network. I just don't understand that. And it's probably going to go to King's Speech. And that's my picks.
All right.
Hey, Sam, and you said Michelle Williams for actress?
Yep.
Okay, just want to be sure.
All right. Tom.
I am thinking Colin Firth and Natalie Portman are pretty much locks, I think, for acting awards. With director, the Academy always has this. They have two modes. They either have all love for one movie, or they have everyone gets a prize day. And I think it'd be safe to say that getting one of these smaller big awards is going to kind of negate them getting a big picture. Looking at the best director, I think they're going to give it to Fincher for his fifth best movie. And that's going to be able to excuse them from giving the Social Network Best Picture. So they'll be like, there you go, there's your Best Director award. Now,
Bugger
move
off.
on. I wouldn't be surprised if Tom Hooper won it, but this is kind of where I'm leading. For the Best Picture, I think it comes down to three movies: King's Speech, True Grit, and Social Network. Social Network's kind of peaked right before the Golden Globes, it seems like, that a lot of the buzz for it. With True Grit, there's this animosity between the Academy Awards and the Golden Globes. The Academy, I think, really resents the Golden Globes for hopping on their coattails and becoming a big show and trying to be a bellwether for the Academy Awards. And I think it would please the Academy to no end to give Best Picture to a film that the Golden Globes completely ignored. I think they would be so giddy to give it to True Grit. Which is why I think that's kind of in second place, and I think it's going to go to the King's Speech. It's going to get. It seems like it's going to get the Best Actor award, but I think they're going to be spreading a lot of love around come Oscar night. But I'm going to have to say King's Speech probably for Best Picture.
All right, Gabe.
Well, it's interesting to me how similar our choices are so far. I'm kind of right in line there. I feel like I haven't seen the King's Speech yet, but I feel like it's getting a lot of buzz, and it seems like it's probably a really well done film. So I feel like it's going to take Best Actor, Best Director, and I've seen very few instances where Best Director and Best Film aren't related to each other. So I think the King's Speech will also probably take Best Film. And actually, I just want to express my disappointment in one of those disconnects where Best Director and Best Film did not go together, and that's when Steven Spielberg got Best Director for Saving Private Ryan, but it did not win Best Film. I thought it was one of the best films I'd have ever seen, and I believe it was Shakespeare in Love that won Best Picture that year, which was a great movie, but it just wasn't nearly as visceral as what did I just say? What's the name of that?
I'm glad to see I'm not the only
Saving
one.
Private Ryan.
Oh, Saving Private Ryan. I had Band of Brothers in my head for some reason. Yeah, it just wasn't nearly as good as Saving Private Ryan. But anyway, but I do think I'm with you, Mike, on the Best Actress. I think that'll probably go to Natalie Portman.
All right, and Mr. Johnson.
All right, hold on. I'm updating Gabe's thing here. You guys make very strong arguments for all your picks, but I'm gonna have to line myself with Wayne and Garth Algar and go with Winter's Bone just across the board. I think that's just gonna clean up on Oscar night. It's gonna be amazing. But seriously,
Jeff Daniels is going to take it.
Jeff Daniels. Dumb and Dumber. It'll be awesome.
Yep.
Cut and the orange suit and everything. Best Actress, I will go with Michelle Williams, and hopefully she'll read the phone book as her acceptance speech. And for Actor, I will go with James Franco, because what's his name from Eternal Sunshine? I can't remember it now. I call him Chris Bosch now because he's like the third wheel in everything I see. The kids are all right. What's his name?
Mark Ruffalo.
Mark
Ruffalo.
It even has my name and I can't remember it. Okay, I'm going to go with James Franco because I see him everywhere along with Ruffalo.
Okay, I just have to ask real quick. Was there a chemical spill somewhere near Des Moines? Because the three of us that live closest are having a hell of a time talking tonight.
What's with our brains?
Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
I associate it with the 2-degree temperatures that I woke up to this morning. It sort of, stifled my whole day, I think.
All right.
So I'm still going with Christopher Nolan for Best Director, even though he's not on the ticket. Even though I know that subject didn't want to be touched tonight, but no, I'll go with Fincher. He's probably going to get it. And not that I have a problem with that. I haven't seen the movie, and from what I hear from you guys, it's kind of lackluster. And I'm going to go with the sentimental pick for the Best Picture nominee, and I'm going to say Toy Story 3.
Woo! Oh, yeah, there you go.
Even though that's going to be completely wrong.
All right, so we've made it a point that we're fanboys of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and we absolutely hate Social Network.
Done with that word.
Just real quick, guys. I want your opinions on the Golden Globes versus the Oscars. Which one's better? Which one do you think matters most?
Well, the Oscars matter. The Golden Globes is like the dress rehearsal. Everyone's drunk. The awards are picked up by the Hollywood Foreign Press. It's like apples and oranges. I just don't even think they're the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Mark. I mean, these are being voted on by reporters in foreign countries or from foreign countries whose beat is Hollywood. It's like, why does their opinion get an entire night to themselves? I do not understand that at all.
Gabe, Sam?
Well, I'd say it comes down to, what would you rather win? I think the Oscar is
a Grammy.
Okay. For a while, I wanted to win a Slammy, which is from the World Wrestling Federation.
Yeah. Yep.
But neither here nor there. Oscars, baby.
Gabe?
Yeah, ditto. I can't,
Ditto.
Yeah, Oscars.
Can't argue with that. All right, well, before we move on to our recommendations of the week or of this episode, I want to get to a few pieces of feedback that we have received. Our first one is on our TalkShoe website where we post the actual MP3 of the recording of the podcast. And it's from Nikki CV99. And they write, I love the episode about Scrooge versus A Christmas Carol. I played Scrooge this year in a decorating contest at work, so I feel like I know his motivation. Scrooge wins. It's a movie from my past. I love Bill Murray and the cast. Stop saying it was awkward. LOL, Zemeckis and Cameron would have us never see an actor again. Fight the power. I'm in for the long haul, fellas. If you ever need a female point of view, let me know. So thank you, Nikki CV99. We appreciate the feedback. And, well, the review. We also received one on iTunes. We've received, looks like 9 5-star ratings. So thank you to everyone that has rated our podcast.
Thank you to our family and friends.
Yes, thanks to all of our mothers. And
hi, Mom. Oh, she also wanted to add that she says that I'm special.
okay. And we also, with one of the reviews, we actually got like a little response here. It was by Ash Linlow. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. 7 left this on January 4th, and it said, asked if we and Knuckleball Cast are the same. So I looked up Knuckleball, and the only thing that we kind of share is the same free image that I pulled off a website until our special image is created by Amanda. Which reminds me, I'll have to beat her tonight after the program's done. I'm just kidding. I don't really beat her. We also received an email from Michelle pointing us to a link at ain'titcoolnews.com, and it's about AMC Cinemas giving us the chance to catch the Best Picture nominees from this year. They're going to have a 24-hour marathon on February 26th. Only 15 theaters are doing it, but there are going to be 26 theaters that are doing a 2-day run. That's 5 movies a day. So if you guys want to catch that, you can check it all out at amc.com, I believe is the website. And tickets are $60 for all the films, and that also includes $20 worth of concessions. So for $4 per, you get some of the best films released this year.
And I'm on AMC's website right now, and it's actually playing in Dubuque.
Oh, really?
At the AMC Star 14.
So
FYI.
Let's all just go, and we'll record from there after every. So yeah, before we go, should we announce what our next fight is going to be?
Yeah.
Bout number 4. It's going to be Fincher versus Fincher. So let's kind of hope that he does pick up the Oscar. 7 versus Zodiac. I think that's a pretty good pick right there. That's going to be a good time. So without further ado, let's hurry on up. We'll get to everyone's recommendations for episode 3, or well, fight 3. Let's start with Tom.
My pick is for the it was Academy Award nominated for Best Animated Short Film in 2000, and it's a little film called Rejected. It is quite possibly one of the funniest, strangest things that you will ever see. They are it's a series of rejected ad proposals, and it's done with these really tiny like line drawings on white paper.
Uh-huh.
It's incredibly creative. It's very, very funny, and you will never forget it. And you'll be quoting some very unusual lines from it. The back of the DVD proudly states that this animated short moving picture has not been rated by any board of old white men in fancy wool suits who loudly thump and flop around, claiming to know what's good for you and your children. It's an amazing film. I'm pretty sure you could probably find it online. I imagine I probably should have checked before I started talking. IMDb may even have it ready to watch. I'm pretty sure Netflix has it as well. But the DVD alone is something worth having. So if you head over to bitterfilms.com, you can pick them up over there, I think. But for this Oscar month, I do the Academy Award nominee for Best Short Animated Film.
All right. Sam.
Tom, I love it. One of my favorite lines is this guy's like, "My spoon is too big." It's seriously, check Rejected out, Tom. Great pick. It's awesome. My pick for this episode has to do. We're talking a lot about love and relationship stories. So my film this week is from 2005. It's Mozart and the Whale. And this romantic drama follows the love affair of two people with a subtle form of autism called Asperger's syndrome. Josh Hartnett stars as Donald, an emotionally dysfunctional kind of mathematical genius who falls in love with Isabel, a musically gifted woman played by Radha Mitchell. And their unique personalities put up quite a force in their merging relationship. Josh Hartnett is really at the top of his acting game, and his chemistry with Radha is electric. Norwegian director Peter Naas adds his touch, directing this poignant romance inspired by a true story. The movie is well shot, well acted, and it makes for great weekend viewing. You can check it out on Netflix, and let us know what you think on our Facebook page. If you see some of the recommendations and some of the films we talked about, let us know what you think about them.
Right on. Mark?
My pick this week is going to be a film by a French street artist named Banksy. It's called Exit Through the Gift Shop. It's a documentary about a guy who picks up a camera and does nothing but film his entire life 24/7, and he decides to go after or follow the lives of these street artists, these really graffiti artists, and you start off and you think this documentary is going to be about these artists, and then the camera kind of turns around and becomes about this guy filming everybody. I'm not 100% sold. It's actually real, but it's an amazing movie, and it's up for Best Documentary, and Shaquille O'Neal makes a brief appearance in it, so this could be the only film Shaquille O'Neal appears in that wins an Oscar. So
what you mean Shazam didn't?
The reason you got to pull for that reason.
You mean Shazam didn't?
No, Shazam, Steel, Blue Chips. No, I'm afraid none of them.
I was lied to then.
Yeah, you were sold some bad LDS.
Oh man! All right, Gabe.
Okay, well, my French is no good, so I may have Sam help me with this. But
just say I surrender.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'm gonna with the theme of the whole kind of romance kind of thing. I'm gonna suggest a short film from 1962 called La Jetée, which is directed by a gentleman named Chris Marker, and it's a really interesting take on things. It's the entire film is made almost entirely with still images, and there's one pivotal moment in the film where it's not a still image. And it's very subtle and it's very poignant, in my opinion. And it's a very interesting watch. It's basically about love through time. The main character travels through time and falls in love in the past, and it's a really very interesting concept. And actually, it was a concept that was taken and later used to make another, in my opinion, good film, 12 Monkeys.
Yes.
And 12 Monkeys took the concept and expanded on it greatly and changed it quite a bit. But the core concept is there: time traveling and falling in love with someone in the past. And so I thought that was an interesting take on a romance.
All right. Well, I'm going to make two recommendations. One is one movie not to see, and that is Punisher Warzone. Ray Stevenson is a really good Punisher, but holy crap, yeah, let's not watch that movie. And my recommendation is from 2004, and it's Sideways. It's a movie that made me, I don't know, excited about filmmaking again. Really made me fall in love with Paul Giamatti. Like, I will watch anything Paul Giamatti does. It's just, to me, phenomenal. I love that it really relaunched Lowell's career. And he was able to ruin his career after during Spider-Man 3. And Virginia Madsen's hot. So go ahead. Go get Sideways. Is there any old news or new news that anyone wants to share before we end it? Any way people can connect with you on the Webernets? Tom?
Yeah, people can hook up with me on not hook up with me. Oh dear God!
Well, hello.
I'm sorry. I'm finishing this podcast with a 1-month-old leg on my stomach here. Everybody can check out OscarRadar.com as we approach the last 3 weeks, and then the radar will kind of shut down until late summer when we fire it back up again. And I'm also on Facebook, for the first time ever. So
Which social network made you want to do?
Yeah, I did, just because I can't believe the number of friends that I have reconnected with. It is absolutely amazing. So, friend me, please, because apparently that's all that matters anymore.
All right, Mark. Sorry.
That's all. They have a good night.
All right, Mark.
I'm Jeremy Bentham 42 on Twitter. I actually closed my Facebook account the day that Social Network won Best Picture at the Golden Globes. Me and Facebook needed some time apart, so
wow.
Yeah, we went our different ways. I also saw Blue Valentine that night. I don't know if there's what's going on there, but I mostly tweet about law. So if you're into that kind of thing, then I'm the guy you want to follow. And real quickly, I want to thank everyone who saw Cinesmack on the new and notable listing on the iTunes page and gave our podcast a shot.
Oh, yeah, right on. Sam.
Well, yeah, thank you to everyone that's been listening to our podcast. It's so much fun to do, and you guys are great. If you need to check me out, you can find out my email address and about the film event that I produce here in Des Moines at 48hourfilm.com/Des Moines. And you can also find me on Facebook.
Gabe?
Yeah, and I'd like to thank everybody who's listening as well. It is a lot of fun, and I am proud to be a part of this group with these insanely intelligent and talented guys. And I'm also proud to say that I am among Tom's first friends on Facebook. I was very happy to find out that he just signed up and he added me as a friend. I feel totally validated. And I, too, can be found at Facebook. And if I ever actually get my stuff together, both Mike and I will have brand new websites in the not-too-distant future.
Oh, yeah, that reminds me, Gabe.
Yeah.
Need to work on a website.
I know.
All right, you can follow Cinesmack, like Sam said, on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter. My name on Twitter is Bullet. And you can also follow me on Facebook. If you want to leave us any feedback, email us at cinesmack@gmail.com. We thank everyone that has started listening to us, and especially to the ones that have left us the nice 5-star reviews. I will shake my fist at the person that left us 1 3-star review, but that's I can forgive that. So yes, thank you. Thanks to you guys for making this possible. That is my fellow hosts, Gabe, Sam, Mark, and Tom. And with that being said, go catch a flick.
The quote goes, "How happy is the blameless vessel's lot, the world forgetting by the world forgot, eternal sunshine of a spotless mind, each prayer accepted and each wish resigned."
No, I really think that Eternal Sunshine was, oh man, I just think it was so well put together. And I think Michael Gondry, should be in the higher echelons of directing.
Mike, you ignorant slut.
This has been a test of the Southsider Studios podcast system. This was only a test. If this were a true lack of entertainment, your head would explode. Go to iTunes and subscribe to our feed. Just search Southsider Studios.